Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. My unboxing and card making with the Simon Says Stamp September 2025 card kit. The 14th of each month is when the Simon Says Stamp monthly card kit goes live. I mention that because there's always a bit of an outcry in actually September. When we get to Stamptember, that's a whole separate thing. We'll get there. It's coming. But the 14th of the month is Simon Says Stamp's monthly card kit. Because a lot of people are expecting, collabs and, secrets and things to be revealed. It's always the card kit. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And then this is the September card kit because they mail them out to the customers a little later in the month. And then generally you're going to receive it roughly end of August, early September, So hopefully that all makes sense. As always, I'll have links to all the things because the kit, you can buy it as a one-off purchase. You can subscribe. Some of the items are available individually. Like there's many, many options. We all love options. I love options, all the things. So I'll have links below. Like always, my links are affiliate links. That just means if you click on one of my links and end up ordering something, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. The kits are sent to me. I work with Simon Says Stamp. I don't have to do these unboxings. They're just fun. So I think that was all of the housekeeping and little whatevers. Yeah, let's get into the kit. So, there we go. Okay, so this is the Birthday Blitz card kit, and there's a lot. Oh, there's candy as always. Can't go wrong with the candy. So we got candy. There are several die sets. This is nuts. Okay. Let's get into all the things. So first off, there's a big 6x8 stamp set. This is the Birthday Blitz stamp set with a bunch of fun images. Here's to be but that hill. I like that. That's cute. That's funny. So there's a stamp set in these dies. There is a coordinating die set for this that is not part of the kit. It's an add-on purchase, separate purchase, whatever. I actually happen to have it, which makes me super happy because I love having the coordinating dies. I don't like fussy cutting if I can avoid it. So yeah, there is a coordinating die set that will die cut all the images and basically everything in this kit. Love it. So there is that. So in the kit you get that. And then there's all these fun die sets. So there's a Ferris wheel die set, which is a good size. Love it. So we got a Ferris wheel. We got a party balloon. Can't go wrong with little party balloons. Poppin corn. It's so cute. And rubber ducky. I think that's adorable too. There's a 3D embossing folder. So this is the Birthday Sentiments embossing folder. Can't go wrong with embossing folders. I love me some embossing folders. That one's fun. Okay, so there's that. There's a sheet of the pre-printed sentiments. Simon does tons of these. I use them a lot. This has got to be an easy sentiment. This will work with those easy strips, won't it? Yeah, birthday easy sentiment strips. So there is an easy strips wafer die. If I remember when I'm doing my supply list, I might end up using it. We'll see. That coordinates with this. It'll say literally EZ, the two letters. Simon's been releasing a lot of pre-printed sentiment strips that fit that wafer die. And then there's also some stamps. And then down the road, there'll be more things, I'm sure. So even if you don't have the wafer die, you can just trim these apart or use a sentiment label die. These are printed. Simon does print them onto, this is heavyweight cardstock with toner ink. So you can technically foil these. I personally don't really do that very often. It just does not agree with me. I don't know. I struggle doing foiling that way, but it is another option. And for those that love using their laminator and foiling that way, great. Just make sure you're using toner foil, foil meant for that, the Gina K foil, etc. Ones that are meant for that, not the ones meant for hot plates. We're getting into the weeds here. So You get one of those. Little foam strips, foam adhesive strips to do like shakers and add dimension. Always good to have. There's pattern paper. This pattern paper is, what is the brand of this? Simple Stories, Fun Times. That's cute. That's cute. Oh, these are, I like the colors. It's a rainbow. Oh, these are fun. These are fun. You know? Love it. Admit one. Food, drinks. Hooray. Fantastic. Those are fun. These are fun papers. I like the color. Oh, I like the colors. Yes. These are really, really fun. Oh, love it. Fun. So you get that. You get some holographic. The rainbow holographic cardstock. The stuff is fun. It's just fun. You can't go wrong with like metallic and rainbow and holographic and all the things. And then they also include a pack of, yeah, the Simon Says Stamp Assorted 100-pound card fronts. This is nice. I, back in the day, purchased several of these because they were handy to have for die cutting, you know, and all the things. Plus, this is also a nice way to have like a variety of colors, especially if you don't have a lot of color cardstock. Getting like an assortment pack like this is very nice because you get all of these packs. And this is all, again, this is Simon Says Stamp's 100-pound cardstock, which I use a ton. So yeah, you get a whole assortment with all of the colors. Love it. And this isn't even all the Simon colors. That's just this pack, but they have more cardstock options than just this. So I love these. I love it. So that is the kit in a nutshell. As usual, at this exact moment, I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm going to make. There's so many directions I can go with all of these things. But thanks to the magic of video editing, I can just splice it all together. So just stay tuned. I'm going to show you guys what I decided to make. So I ended up making 4 cards. So much fun. So for the first one, I'm using the Poppin corn die set. And I die cut the little Poppin corns, little popcorn, from the 2 shades of yellow cardstocks. And then I took a couple of Copic markers. You can use any marker. It doesn't matter. I just used the markers to kind of enhance the little deboss areas, like where the little kernel is, because it just gives it that little extra something. So for this, literally any marker will work. I just chose a couple shades of yellow that were darker than the cardstocks. So I went in and filled in those little deboss spots. And then I'm going to lay these all out in my spot box because of course we're going to add splatter to them. So I'm going to just lay them all out. And I'm going to use the like Simon Says Stamps, the Pawsitively Perfect white splatter, but I don't want the splatter to be white. So I'm going to tint it. So shook up my splatter jar. FYI, be careful shaking this stuff up. I make a mess. You know, stirring it up works. You just want it to be, you know, mixed up. And then I smushed some honey positively saturated ink onto my palette. And then I just mixed, like I used my brush, took some of the splatter out of the container, mixed it together, and then added even more of the honey ink, darkened it a bit, splattered it on, you know, onto these little die cut pieces, and then let that dry. And then for the actual little popcorn box, I'd originally die cut the outline from white and then the little stripe portion from red. And then I was like, I don't want to line up those red stripes, you know, because they need to be like, you know, evenly spaced to look nice. And I was like, no. So instead, I die cut the outline from white and then use that stripe piece to die cut it a second time, just like so. So I'm left with the outline. And then I die cut the base from red cardstock. And then I can just adhere them together. That's probably how it was intended to be used, but sometimes it takes my brain a little longer. So then I can adhere them together. And then the little like circle label portion of it, that I die cut from some of Simon's Sea Glass cardstock. That one is not part of the little cardstock assortment. But Sea Glass is one that I have just oodles of because I love Sea Glass cardstock. So I die cut that from a scrap of the sea glass cardstock, adhered them together. So I've got my little popcorn bucket. And then the background is from the pattern paper pack. And I die cut that using one of Simon's rectangle wafer dies and easy strips. Pulled out that die set so I can die cut that pre-printed sentiment pack. Like I was saying in the unboxing, I love the convenience of this. If you don't have this little die set, it's really easy to trim these apart with just your paper trimmer, or you could use other little like sentiment label dies, etc. So I had the coordinating dies, so I was going to use it. So I die cut those sentiments, and that's why I love it, because it's all, there we go. I've got a pile all cut out, ready to go. I don't have to think anymore. So with ones like this, I usually, like, I'll keep them with, when they come in a pack, because usually it's like a pack of 4 or more. So with this, actually, those I ended up sticking just with the stamp set. Since it was part of the kit, I was like, once I get a full pack of those happy birthday strips, then I will stick the already die cut ones in there. So the next time I go to grab it, I've got a little pile all cut out for me. Love that. So it shows a couple of the sentiments, and I used a little blending brush, and I blended butter and zest inks on these 2 die cut sentiments, just to, the popcorn colors. So blended those over it, and yeah, it's another way you can customize. You can also use markers. I've shown all sorts of ways with these, the pre-printed sentiment strips, because again, they're white cardstock. You can kind of do whatever you want. So once I've got everything ready, it's now time to just assemble. So I popped up that little popcorn bucket with some foam squares, and then just glued all the little popcorn pieces, piling them up inside this popcorn bucket. Kept a couple to stick along the bottom, and then I also set a couple aside to use on the inside of the card. So once I've got them all popped up, for the sentiments, I actually pulled out some of Simon's Big Mama foam tape, because that's thin, like the Big Mama foam tape. If you're not aware, they call it Big Mama because the roll is enormous. It's huge, like larger than a vinyl record. It's huge. I love this stuff. But the actual tape itself, like the foam tape, is super thin. That's why I love it so much, you guys. Like, I've been using this stuff for years. Love it. Anyway, popped up the sentiments with that. And then my card base is a top folding A2 white note card, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I had kept a piece of that pattern paper, and I trimmed it down with my paper trimmer, and I adhered it to the inside of the card, and then just trimmed off the excess with my scissors. And then I had another little sentiment strip that I had ink blended over with one of the yellow inks, and then a few more of those little die cut popcorn pieces. So press those into place, and then I'm going to adhere the card front to the card base, and that's going to finish off card number 1. So we've got the popcorn and all the color, and I was able to sneak in a little bit of splatter while still keeping it fairly clean and simple. Who'd have thunk? So that was card number 1. For card number 2, we're going to use a stamp set. And for this, I've got a panel of Simon's Smooth White cardstock. Right now, this is A2 sized. And this long wave, hill, whatever kind of stamp you want to call it, is huge, as you can see. So I had to turn my MST sideways to fit the stamp. And what I'm going to do, this is going to make sense in a second. So I'm going to take my anti-static powder tool. I'm going to go over this cardstock. That's going to keep my embossing powder, because I'm going to heat emboss this. That keeps the embossing powder from clinging to anything other than the stamped image. And then I'm inking up the stamp with Surf, Positively Saturated ink. Now this is a dye-based ink. Technically, in theory, you can heat emboss with dye-based inks, but you have to move really fast, like really fast, because these inks dry too fast for embossing powder to have enough time to cling to. So I stamped it with that ink, left the cardstock and stamp in place, wiped off the stamp. Now, after cleaning off the stamp, I'm inking it up with clear embossing ink and stamping it right on top. So this is a way you can use any of your dye inks to heat emboss with. If you want to, emboss it with clear embossing powder and have a colored embossed image. That's how it works. But instead of using clear embossing powder, I use Simon's Detail Sparkle embossing powder. I always forget I have this. Like, it was in the back of the drawer. This has been out for years. It's still available. I'll have a link to it. Again, I always forget. I forgot I had it. And when I was digging through the other day looking for a different embossing powder, I came across this and I was like, oh yeah, Haven't used this in forever. So I use that. That's what I poured over it, tapped off the excess, funneled it back in the container and put the lid on so I didn't knock it over. And then I melted it. And it's pretty. It looks kind of gray in the container, but it's basically clear with a silvery sort of sparkle in it and a silvery sort of iridescence. It's pretty. So then that now is like shiny and sparkly and fun. So then I put that panel back in my Misty and I'm going to stamp this big Sunray sort of image. I'm going to stamp that with citrine, positively saturated ink. So ink that up, stamp it, and then the circle stamp, like the center of the sun, that I'm going to stamp with lemonade, positively saturated ink. So I'm going to stamp that. And then there's a little smiley face stamp. It took me a second when I first looked at the stamp set in this kit. I was like, what is that? And I was like, oh, it's a smiley face. And I was like, that's a odd shape for it, you know? It's perfect. It's so cute. So I pulled out that little smiley face and I'm going to stamp that onto the sun with the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And yeah, I think he's perfect. I love it. I don't know. So inked that up, stamped him. Seriously. So then I die cut that with one of Simon's rectangle wafer dies just to make it a little smaller than the card base. And for this one, I'm using the rubber Ducky wafer die. Die cut them from pieces of the cardstock that come in the kit and then just assemble like so. Super simple. He would also look really cute with a googly eye. I thought about that after, but we're going to make him wobble instead. So it's all good. So I had die cut and assembled my little rubber ducky. The sentiments from the stamp set, I had white heat embossed that. I didn't have my camera on, but white heat embossed it onto some black cardstock. Die cut it with the coordinating wafer die. And then die cut scraps with the coordinating wafer die, and then I'm adhering them all together to build the dimension, give it a bit of heft. And then for the rubber ducky, we're gonna pop him up with the little mini action wobble, because why not? I love action wobbles; they're so fun. So stuck it to the back of my ducky, and then stuck this to the card front, and I'll show at the end. Like these go completely flat, so they're easy to mail. It's why another reason why I love this is my form of like interaction, you know, because it just. I don't do a lot of interactive cards. You know, sometimes I think I'm just getting too old or I'm just too tired. I don't know, you know? But things like action wobbles, love them. They're so simple because you just peel and stick and there you go. It's like, it moves, and that required zero effort or brain power on my part. Anywho, card base for this one is Simon's Audrey Blue cardstock. I folded the card inside out so that on the inside I could stamp that wave, I'll just call it a wave, stamp with that surf ink. And then I'm going to stamp another sentiment from the set with the Nocturne ink. So that's going to finish off the inside of my card. And then for the card front, I cut a piece of black cardstock just slightly larger than the card front to frame it up a little bit. So adhered those together with the liquid glue I was using. And then I'm going to adhere that to my card base. And then I'll be done the second card. Like I said, I'm keeping these fairly clean and simple. Like I was just like going with this kit. And then I was like, next. So yeah, for the next one, I'm using the embossing folder. So off camera, I lightly misted my cardstock with water on one side just to soften a bit so it embosses. And then with Simon Says Stamps 3D embossing folders and my Anna Griffin Empress machine, I had the graphic on the screen there. One cutting plate and the folder. If you find that doesn't work for you, it's like if it's not enough, you could also add the metal shim or a piece of cardstock. But I always suggest starting with like the loosest form, you know, and then go from there and see what works best for you and your machine. So I embossed that cardstock. I trimmed it down with my paper trimmer, so it's like 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And then I used the party balloon wafer die and die cut all those like pieces of cardstock that come in the kit plus a couple other random scraps and adhered them together so they've got their little highlight. And then I used my craft knife. This is another thing. I haven't used this thing in years. I keep it because you never know. Once in a blue moon, once every 7 years, it comes in handy. Because craft knives and me, dangerous. But I used the craft knife to cut out that word happy from the pattern paper rather than use my scissors because I didn't want to cut apart a chunk of that pattern paper because I liked both sides of it so much. So I used the craft knife to remove it. Then I adhered the piece to a piece of white cardstock just to give it a little bit more strength because I'm going to pop that up with foam squares. And then with my scissors, I fussy cut around like the way it is, you know, the way those words are like in this pattern paper pack. It makes me think of like hostage letters, you know. These are all cute and adorable cards, you guys. This is where my mind goes. Welcome to the chaos. You know, I was just like, I could do like ransom letters with these. Anyway, it's not. This is cute and fun and birthday themed, okay? So, all my balloons, I had black thread in my stash and I taped the thread to the back of the balloons with some washi tape. And then this little trick, this has been shown a million times. I didn't invent this at all. I use a piece of press and seal. I've shown this before. Many other makers have shown this. I keep a roll of press and seal in my studio. Mostly I use press and seal to seal up like my jars of paste because it is awesome for that. Highly recommend. It extends the life of your paste. But this little trick is also very convenient. So I take a piece of press and seal. I've got all those die cut balloons. So whatever your little die cut elements are. And I press that piece of press and seal to it. And that way they're all lined up where they need to be. And then I can just flip this over and add my adhesive. You can get more involved with this. You can like create a hinge and go back and forth. Like again, a lot of makers use this like religiously, and it's a easiest way to build your dimension and not mess up. And then as you saw, I applied the foam squares, pressed it to that card front, and then peeled off the press and seal. And that piece of press and seal, I just press it to the box. And I reuse it over and over again until it's not like sticky anymore. And I've had the same box in here literally for over a decade. Yeah, I think it's been over a decade since I got that box in here. It lasts forever. So, and it works great in the kitchen. Anyway, after I was done with that, I adhered my sentiments. I tied a little random scrap of black gingham ribbon that I just had in my stash. I don't have a link for that, sorry, but it was just a random little piece I had. So I knotted that in a bow, you know, to attach all my balloons. Adhered my little sentiments with some foam squares. And then turned this over and put some Big Mama foam tape on the back of this panel. Again, just bumped it up a smidge, not a lot. And then my card base for this one is a top folding A2 size card, 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. This is Simon's Sunshine cardstock. So I popped that onto there. And then on the inside of the card, I adhered more of those die cut sentiment strips, as well as I had cut down another one of those little ransom notes. So yeah, it just works. It's like make a wish, celebrate, hope you have the best birthday. You know, you gotta have something on the inside of the card. So got that in there. And then final card. I had to use this Ferris wheel. This is so cute. This you could make interactive. Trust me, I thought about it. I'm not even kidding. It was late when I was making this. Like I had a disaster going on and my brain was just no longer cooperating, like at all. Not like it ever cooperates, but it wasn't. But you could use a little spinner, like a little circle disc behind this and a little circle wafer, and I know you could make this interactive. I thought about it. I was like, oh, I could use maybe like little teeny tiny, I know I have some little tiny like micro brads from Tim Holtz, I'm positive, that would work for the little, what do you call them? Carriages on a Ferris wheel, whatever they're called. You know, like there's ways. I know there's ways. And I wanted to do it, but I was just like, you know what? This is card number 4. I think we're good for now. You got 5 million other things to do. So I just assembled it just very simply, as you saw. It's still so cute. It's so cute. And yeah, sky's the limit with that. So on this one, I used the foam strips and popped up. And then I literally cut one of the foam strips in half. That's where those Pawsitively Everything scissors. Oh, so good. So good for stuff like this. So to make the foam strip narrow enough so I could put it around the perimeter of this little Ferris wheel. So this will just pop it up and give it dimension. So I didn't make it interactive, but actually, no, another simple way to make this interactive, rather than doing like spinners and all the things, instead of gluing the wheel to the base, hold it over a piece of foam, pierce a hole through it, and attach that with a brad. And then it could rotate. That would be simple. See, I thought about it now. Too late, but there's the idea. So I adhered it to a panel of white cardstock. And I'm using more this pattern paper from the kit. I love this one. This pattern, I was just like, yas. It's so retro looking and so fun. And that's the colors I mimicked from the pattern paper for the Ferris wheel, you know, to make everything matchy-matchy. So I adhered a piece of it to the inside of my card, which is top folding A2 white note card. And then I had cut a piece of that pattern paper to A2 size, so it'll fully cover the card. And then my little Ferris wheel panel, same thing. I took a piece of black cardstock, cut it just slightly larger, just to frame it out there. And then I'm going to adhere that. And then I've got those sentiment strips. So I adhered one to the inside. I'm going to adhere one to the outside. This one's going to be a belated birthday card. And that finished off card number 4. So these were fun, you know, fairly clean and simple. I still managed to sneak in a little bit of splatter, did a little bit of glitter embossing, added an action wobble, you know, got some texture going on, all the fun things. So this was a really fun kit. And now I have some extra birthday cards to add to my stash, which is always nice to have on hand. Birthday cards especially, always nice to have on hand because you never know when you need a random birthday card. So super fun. So like I mentioned in the intro, I will have links to all the things, the kit, the subscription, and then everything else that I used to pull these cards together. Those will be listed and linked in the description box below the video. So if you expand it, everything will be there. I'll link to my blog post, etc., etc. All the info is always directly down below. And then as always, thank you all so very much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping, commenting. 1, I very much appreciate it. And 2, it does let those robot overlords know you like what you see. We're all at the mercy of the robot overlords. Seriously, it helps. And I appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you. You can join our little chaotic community. And yeah, thanks you all so much. I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!